Come ormai tutto il mondo sa, in questa
The whole
società
world by now
divenuta
knows that
globale,
in this society that has become global,
le varie nazioni stanno
the various
affrontando un
nations
problema
are
rappresentato
dealing with a
da
problem
un'epidemia del
caused
tutto
by
nuova
a completely
in
new
quest'epoca,
epidemic in
che
this
proviene dalla Cina.
age. An epidemic coming from China.
Naturalmente è un problema eminentemente
Of course, this
di
problem
carattere
is
fisico, però
merely physical.
il
However,
corpo fisico è l'abitazione
the
dello
physical
spirito,
body
e quindi
is the house of
non
the
si può
spirit,
fare a
and
meno di
therefore
parlarne
we
per le
cannot
conseguenze
but
che ha,
not talk about it,
anche nella vita sociale e
especially
individuale.
talking about the consequences of individual and social lives.
Questo
This virus causing this epidemic is called the coronavirus,
chiamato
because as you know,
come
it has the
sapete,
shape of a crown. Corona
è a
means
forma di corona,
crown, as if
quasi che fosse
it
davvero
were
l'eroe del
the
momento.
king of the moment.
Speriamo però
But
di potergli
let's
togliere la
hope
corona molto
to
presto,
take that
quindi
crown off very soon
finalmente
so that the
ritorni
world
alla normalità.
can go back to normality.
È comunque stata
However,
accertata
one
una
thing
cosa
has
molto
been
importante.
proved, which
Non è
is
il
very
virus che
important.
provoca
It is not the
gravi
virus
disturbi
causing serious
fino alla morte, ma
conditions, even causing
è il fatto
death.
che aggrava
It is
la
that this
situazione
virus can
di
worsen
salute di
the
certe
conditions of
persone che hanno
those
già
people who already
disturbi
have
molto
very serious
gravi.
diseases. And another important thing
E
that
un'altra
is
cosa
important
importante è che
to
l'80%
remind
delle persone
is that
guarisce.
80% of people
Ecco, per
recover
completare
from
questo quadro, quindi
it.
non si
So
tratta
to complete
di
the
un'epidemia
picture,
grave come
it is
la peste del
not
mangione.
a serious epidemic like
Epidemie
the Black
che funestarono
Plague
anche il secolo
described by
scorso.
the Italian writer
Mi
Manzoni.
parlava mio nonno di una
Certain
epidemia
epidemics that
cosiddetta spagnola
afflicted
che
the
proveniva
last
dalla Spagna,
centuries
che
were
provocava
very
migliaia e migliaia
grave.
di
My
morti.
grandfather told
Oggi
me
naturalmente
about
nella
an
società
epidemic
contemporanea
called
tutto è un
the
po' più
Spanish
sotto
flu because
controllo.
it came from Spain,
Quindi
which caused thousands and thousands of
una cosa da
deaths.
dire è che
Nowadays,
dice,
however, in our contemporary
indifferentemente
society,
poveri,
everything is
ricchi,
much more under
gente di
control.
tutti i ceti,
Therefore,
e
one thing to say is
possiamo
that
dire che
this
è anche una
virus strikes
conseguenza della vita
indifferently
attuale.
people that are rich or poor, people from all
Possiede
social
il
classes,
superfluo, mentre
and
un
therefore we
tempo
can
nella società
say
del benessere
also that it is
si
the
viveva
consequence of this
in
current
modo, diciamo,
life. Man
moderato, no?
possesses
Anche nel cibo.
the excess,
Oggi si mangia
while
troppo.
on the
E
contrary,
questo
in other times
ripercuote
people
sulla salute
lived,
dell'individuo.
let's say, much more
Quindi il
moderately,
migliore antidoto
especially
a una simile
talking about food.
calamità
Nowadays
è
we
senz'altro una vita
eat too
saggia,
much, and
una
this
vita
has a consequence
basata
on the
sulla
individual
moderazione
health.
e sulla
Therefore,
meditazione.
the best
Così è proprio dalla
cure
Cina
to
da cui
such
ci
a
proviene
calamity
questa,
is
chiamiamola
absolutely
epidemia.
a wise life. And that is a life
Dall'antica
that is
Cina ci
based
proviene
on
anche
moderation
un detto molto saggio
and based on meditation.
che si attaglia proprio
Indeed, it is
a
from
questo momento.
China where this epidemic is coming
Questo
from.
detto dice:
It is from
per
ancient
vivere
China
una vita
that
felice dovremmo
we have received a
mangiare la
very
metà
wise
e meditare al
saying
doppio.
that suit
Se facessimo
this
questo
very
potremmo
moment. This
vivere
saying goes,
felicemente
in
e
order
non
to live
essere
a happy
nemmeno a
life,
rischio
we
delle
should
malattie,
eat
come è stato dimostrato ampiamente.
by half and meditate
C'è un
twice
aneddoto
as
che
much.
parla di due
If we did
persone,
that,
un ricco signore
we would live
che
happily
si
and not
nutriva
even being at
abbondantemente,
risk of these epidemics,
era
as it has been
corpulento e
widely
grasso,
demonstrated. There is a short story talking about two people. One rich man used to eat abundantly, he was big and fat, and while his servant used to eat very little, whether by vocation or also by necessity. This person was therefore very slim. These two men took part into a pilgrimage. In those days, people used to travel by camel or on foot. But then one day, what happened? These two pilgrims lost their group. They fell asleep and didn't wake up in time, and the camels had already left. They then continued with their pilgrimage on their own. They were lost in the desert, and everybody assumed that the master would be the one to survive because he was fat and very well nourished, while the other one would die of hunger. On the contrary, the opposite happened, because he who ate very little and was slim didn't need many calories, and he was used to a very moderate life. So while the master died, the servant survived and reached the group and went on with his pilgrimage. This short story tells us something, that a moderate and a wise life is the best cure to any calamity. We could even face a calamity such as being lost in the desert. Of course, we should be compassionate about those who are hit by this disease, even if, as we were saying, the chances of healing and recovering are very high. But we should well remember many other things, that there are many more calamities and many more serious ones that are forgotten. For example, Save the Children gave us data telling us that every minute 5 children die of hunger and starvation. And I say it again, every minute. According to the news given by Vianza, which is the Italian Press Association, every day 1,000 people die because of weapons in conflicts, wars, violence, and attacks. So 1,000 people die every day because of weapons, and in the world there are 378 wars currently. This is what the Globalist Institute tells us. These wars are forgotten, but they are bloody, and they kill people every moment. There are about 1 billion people dying of starvation or risking of dying of hunger. So when we are faced with these terrible data, even talking about calamities such as the coronavirus, we can say that this very calamity becomes completely downsized. Obviously, we cannot forget this current calamity, but why is it so spoken about? Because hunger, starvation, and the various wars fought around the world seem very far from us, while on the contrary, this disease could even hit us at any moment. However, the fact remains that the world suffers from calamities and problems that are way bigger and wider than this one that we are facing at the moment. Another thing that is very important and is never talked about, and it is important to remember, it is the constant slaughtering of what the masters call our little brothers, the animals. Because of humans' greed, every day hundreds of millions of animals are killed every day. Fishes, four-legged animals and birds are sacrificed in a useless slaughtering in order to feed humans. In any case, in order to deal with this problem caused by the coronavirus, certain restrictions are in place concerning gatherings and meetings, and we are respecting those limitations with our meetings. In particular, in reference to the meeting in Arezzo, it is a meeting that concerns people from all over Italy, and we complied to the directions by the health authorities. There is one important thing to be said. These directions do not concern small gatherings. Therefore, up to 10 people, we can still continue to meet, meditate together, and read spiritual books and writings. Even in the churches, there are certain precautions that are to be put in place. For example, priests are saying that one cannot exchange the sign of peace during the Mass. However, what we know is that the most important temple is the one that we carry within. It is our physical body, the one where we daily celebrate our meditation. That is our individual Mass, just like what Christ said, which is the kingdom of God is to be found within us. And St. Paul too said, "Don't you know you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you?" So, luckily, we can, through meditation, make contact with God even individually, and therefore receive this extraordinary blessing. So while we wait with patience and trust that by the grace of God, even this disease will abandon the world and will become harmless, we can continue with our inner practices, and that is to meditate on the divine light and sound and enjoy every day this wonderful contact with the divinity that is within us and that we are able to perceive by the grace of God and by the grace of the Master, even in the universe surrounding us. There's a story regarding Master Kirpal Singh. While he was still a disciple, there was a serious epidemic in India, and those epidemics in India would claim thousands of victims. Master Kirpal Singh was unconcerned of the infection, and he would go around helping, assisting people who were infected. He was the representative of his own master, and he held meetings in Lahore, meetings with quite a few people, And those who asked him to stop those assistants, he would reply, I have a spirit with which I help people spiritually, and I also have a body with which I help people physically. Naturally, Master Kirpa Singh was not hit by this disease, and he went on with his activity to become one of the greatest masters of all times. Therefore, each one of us has to meditate individually. It cannot be done by one for someone else. It would be too good to be true if the Master could meditate for every one of us. Naturally, the Master sends us his love vibrations and his help during meditation, but we all have to practice our own meditation, either individually or in groups. There was a young man who was very poor, and he wished to go on a pilgrimage, but he was too poor for that. And so he went to the governor of his own town and told him, I would like to go on a pilgrimage, however, I have no money. Could you please give me 100 dinars in order to go on this pilgrimage? If I could go, then I would do it also for you, sir. And then you would benefit from it too. The governor was a very wise but also very kind person. And after listening to this young man, he told to his treasurer, give 100 dinars to this young man. However, unfortunately, he will not be able to go on a pilgrimage for me, because these are things that have to be done, have to be practiced by oneself. So as we said before, unfortunately, each and every one of us have to meditate for his own self. However, if we live a wise life, then we can also influence positively the environment where we live. And that means to be truly of help to others. That means to bring joy where there is sadness, to bring peace where there are conflicts, to bring wisdom where there is ignorance. Masters have always told us that the true shrine where we have to go on a pilgrimage is not to be found in certain places where the great saints or masters of the past lived, or where certain sacred events happened. The true shrine is our very own body, and it is to be found within us. By closing all our physical doors, then we can focus within and make contact with the divinity. And then truly this pilgrimage will have a value, a great value. Men throughout all their religions have reproduced this shrine that is the physical body. In fact, there are churches, temples of the various religions, the gurdwaras by the Sikhs, the synagogues of the Jews. These are all places that are respectful, where men look for God and they try to focus innerly. However, none of these places can overtake the greatness of a human body. Indeed, the greatness of man himself, that is created in God's image, and that it is a drop of the ocean of cause they make consciousness. It reproduces all the qualities of the divinities: wisdom, joy, blissfulness, all things that are eternal and without limits. All these things are within us already. We just have to develop them, and we can only do it by means of meditation, by giving bread and water to our spirit that are the divine light and sound. And then our spirit will awaken to its true life, which is a divine life, and our spirit will discover all its most wonderful characteristics. The spirit will become full of wisdom, and that wisdom will lead him to a life that is more and more easy and blissful. The spirit will discover the love that is within himself, that love that has been preached about for thousands of years but never found. But then the spirit will discover that the true happiness cannot be found in the pleasures of this world. True happiness can only come through the contact with God. God who is our origin and is where our spirit wants to go back to. Just like a drop of water that evaporates and goes up in the clouds, and then through rain comes back into the water streams, and until it reaches the ocean, it doesn't find any peace. Just like that, our spirit will not be able to find peace until it is united again with its origin, that is God. By grace of our great Master Kirpa Singh and by grace of God, so we shall be able to meet again very soon. But please do remember that the Master is inside each and every single one of you. From the moment of initiation, he has come to live inside your third eye. Every time you elevate this focal point, you make contact with him. Therefore, his grace will accompany you everywhere, not just when we are together in Arezzo, but anywhere you are, everywhere you are in the world. So we need to remember that the Master is not his physical body, it is the power of the Master that operates through him. That power has no limits of time or space and is therefore always with you. The power of the Master, the power of God and the power of Christ is eternal and infinite. It uses as its means, as its manifestation, the physical bodies of the Masters that come from time to time in order to bring the word among men. Master Kirpa Singh used to say that if God wanted to talk, for example, to birds, then it would have to take on the shape of a bird in order to give them instructions. But having to talk to men, then naturally it takes on the form of a human being. So through the Masters that come from time to time, God gives out his incredible and wonderful word. Language may change, customs may change, but the experience of the Spirit remains one in time and fruit. The contact with the manifestation of God in its two primary forms of divine light and sound remains the same in time. Just like the daily light awakens our body when it is asleep, or just like a louder sound equally calls us back to our daily life after the night sleep, likewise the divine light and sound awaken the spirit from that long sleep similar to death, caused by the ignorance of God. Once our spirit has been put on the path of bliss and joy, it will go back without any doubt to the Lord with the help and the grace of the Master who is always with us. So, my very best and loving wishes and greetings with you all, and see you soon back again